In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the basics of utilizing the skills that we've learned in Onshape, watching some of the previous videos, to actually draw a project. So the set of plans you can see on the screen at the moment is a set of plans that was generated for the 6-piece puzzle using Onshape. So what we're going to do is utilize these plans to actually draw each individual piece of the 6-piece puzzle in Onshape, which will then allow us to actually make this assembly that you can see on this first page, and we could then generate a set of plans. So this video is going to be all about how we can use the basic tools in Onshape to draw individual 3D pieces. I'm just going to demonstrate the first two pieces for you to get an idea of how we could use Onshape to do that. So on the home page of Onshape, we're going to create a new document. We're going to label it with a title, so I'm going to call it 6-piece puzzle, and I'm going to click on create. Once it's loaded our new document, which can take a bit of time sometimes, once it's loaded up, we're now ready to start drawing. Now the beauty of a 6-piece puzzle is all 6 pieces are exactly the same dimensions to start with, and then we remove the individual cutouts from each piece. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw that initial square prism that each individual piece is. So if I go to the plans, I'm going to need a few dimensions to start with. So in these plans, I'm just going to hover my mouse over a couple of views. At the top of the page here where my mouse is right now, that is the top view. Where my mouse is now, that is the front view. And then over to the right here where my mouse is now, you can see the end view. Now we need a few key dimensions. We're going to need to know how long each piece is. So if we look down the bottom here, each piece is 130 millimeters long. And then if we look at this end view, each piece is 42 millimeters wide and 42 millimeters thick. So we need those 3 dimensions to draw our basic square prism for each piece. So if I go back to Onshape, I'm going to start off with a sketch, and I'm going to pick a plane. I'm going to pick the top plane. So looking at my plans, my top view here, this is essentially what it's going to end up looking like. I need a 42 by 130 millimeter rectangle to start with, because we always start with a 2D shape and then we're going to make it 3D. So using my rectangle tool, my center point rectangle, I'm going to click in the center here and start to draw out a rectangle. And remember, from the plans, it needs to be 130 long. So I'm going to type in 130, press enter, by 42 millimeters back. So I'm going to do 42 and press enter. And then I'm going to accept that sketch. I'm going to click the tick. Now I need to turn it into a 3D shape. So I'm going to select my extrude tool. I'm going to click on that shape that I've just drawn, the rectangle. And all I need to do now is decide on how deep that shape needs to be. Remember, from the plans, it's 42 by 42. So I'm going to need to change that depth to be 42. And I press enter. So what I've drawn now is the basic piece for all 6 pieces of the 6-piece puzzle. Now before I go any further, because I just need that exact piece for all 6 pieces, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a cheat, and I'm going to duplicate this part studio so that I have 6 copies of it that I can then go on to modify. So I put my mouse over the top of this part studio down the bottom here, and I right click on it. I can go to duplicate. If I click on duplicate, it will make an exact copy of it right next to it. I need 6 copies as it's a 6-piece puzzle, so I'm going to do that 5 times because I already have 1, so I need 5 more. So right click, duplicate, right click, duplicate, and you can see them coming up here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 2 more. And last one. So now I've got my 6 pieces. Now instead of leaving them as Part Studio 1, Part Studio 1, Copy 5. To make them a bit easier to tell what each one is, I'm going to rename them. So I need to right click on the piece, click on rename, and I'm just going to call them piece 1, piece 2, and so on. So piece 1, right click, rename, piece 2, right click, rename, piece 3, and so on. I'll do that for all 6 of them until I've got all 6 pieces. Now that I've got all 6 pieces there, and I've done that initial duplication, now I can start editing each piece so that it looks how it's supposed to and it will go together as a puzzle. So again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reference the plans. Before I do that, if I'm looking at this piece, okay, this is my front and this is my top. It's really important that whenever we're working on these, we've got the view set so that we've got the top, if we're looking up in this top right hand corner here, we've got the top facing the top, okay, and then the front facing towards us, and they're our 2 faces that we're primarily going to be working on. So if I go back to the plans, alright, on this first plan, this is my top view, this is my front view. So if I look at the front view, I've got some markings, alright, that tell me how far in the lines are for our cutout. I've also got a measurement up the top here that tells me how deep the cutout is. All of the cutouts on the 6-piece puzzle are the same depth. They are all 21 millimeters. So consistently when we're doing the cutouts, we're always going to remember that we're going to be extruding or removing 21 millimeters for every single one. So looking down at this front view, 23 millimeters in from each edge on the front. Okay, I have a line to dictate where my cutout's going to be. This dotted area tells me that that is a cutout. That is somewhere where I need to extrude to remove the material. So if I go back to my Onshape drawing, I need to do a sketch. I'm going to select my front face, which was the face that I saw on the plans. Okay. To double check, it was 23 millimeters in from the edges. So I'm going to use my offset tool. I'm going to click on the edge. I'm going to make sure the arrow is pointing inwards. Click again, type in the measurement, so 23. Do the same thing again from the other side. Type in 23, press enter. I've now got those 2 lines that we can see here on the plans. So all I have left to do now is extrude or remove this cutout. So to do that, I'm going to tick the sketch. I'm going to use my extrude tool. I'm going to select this rectangle here. I don't want to add, I want to remove, and I want to change my depth. All of the extrusions are always 21 millimeters, or half of our 42 millimeter thickness, and I'm going to accept it. This first piece is now complete. It looks exactly like it does in the drawing. Piece 2 has 2 cutouts. So piece 2 has that same front cutout, but it also has a cutout on the top. So the front cutout is again 23 millimeters in from each edge. So I'm going to click on piece 2 and I'm going to use those same offset lines. So again, I'm going to sketch, select the face I want to sketch on, use my offset tool, do my 23 millimeter offset inwards for each side. Alright, I can then accept that sketch. Now before I do the extrusion here, I'm going to do the sketch that I need for the top. So if I have a look, I had this line and this line here for that cutout. For the top, I need this line and this line for this central cutout. Okay, you can see here they are 44 millimeters in from each edge. So I'm going to go back to Onshape. I'm going to do another sketch. I'm going to select the top this time, my offset tool, and this time I'm going to come in 44 millimeters from each edge. Make sure my offset is going inwards, so click on the arrow if you need to, and then click again, type in your 44 and press enter. Now that I've got both my sketches, I can accept this sketch. I've got my 2 bits that I want to take away. I'm now going to select my extrude. Okay, I'm going to click on each of those squares and click on remove. Well, apologies, it's not going to let me do them both at the same time, so I'm just going to close it. I'm going to do them one at a time. So I'm going to click extrude. Let's get rid of this one first. 21, always 21. Tick. Then I'm going to extrude again. Select this one, remove. 21 again, and accept. I've now got piece 2. Now to continue and do the remaining pieces, it's the same process. We're going to follow the set of plans. Okay, piece 3 is blank, so piece 3 is technically already done. Piece 4, we've got our top view with one cutout, so a line here and a line here that we need to draw onto the top, and then the front has a line here and a line here that we need to draw on, and then we extrude one at a time. The last thing you'll need to do with the 6-piece puzzle to finish it is these 3mm end chamfers. So if I go back to Onshape, if I select along the top here my chamfer tool, I can actually click the entire square on the end of each piece, right, and then I can rotate around and select the same on the other end, and it is a 3mm chamfer, so make sure it says 3, click my tick, and I've added my chamfer to each end. So I'm going to do that. Once I've drawn each piece, I can go back and add the chamfer. We want to make sure we add that chamfer at the end, not before we've done any of the drawings for the extrusions, because we need to offset in from the edge. So if you add the chamfer, the offset will be incorrect. So the chamfer is done at the very end once you've completed all of your extrusions on the piece. And that's the completed 6-piece puzzle once you've drawn each individual piece. I'll do an additional video for how to assemble the 6 pieces of the puzzle together once you've drawn them.